I knew something was wrong the moment I heard the frantic pounding on my cabin door, sharp, rapid, and way too dramatic for 6 in the morning. The sun had barely begun stretching across the lake, the mist still hugging the water like a quiet secret. But that peace shattered the instant I opened the door and found her, the woman every Lakeside resident whispered about like a local urban legend, the HOA's self-appointed queen, the one they called Karen of the Lake. She stood there, arms crossed so tightly her neon-pink nails almost pierced her own skin, eyes wide with a fury that suggested I had personally insulted her ancestors. "There you are," she snapped, her voice slicing through the calm. "You can't be here. This cabin is HOA property and you are trespassing." I blinked at her, still half asleep, holding my mug of coffee like a shield. "This is my cabin," I said slowly. "I've owned it for years." She scoffed so hard I thought she might injure herself. "No, the HOA voted last night. This entire Lakeside zone is now under our expanded authority." She whipped out a clipboard of course she had a clipboard, and shoved it toward me. "So I need you to gather your things and leave immediately." I took a sip of coffee. "Yeah, that's not happening." Her mouth fell open, and I swear I saw the universe pause for her dramatic inhale. "If you refuse to comply with a lawful HOA order, I will call the police." "Go ahead," I shrugged. "You're wasting your time." That was the spark. The moment gasoline met open flame, Karen stomped backward, nearly twisting her ankle on a decorative rock she probably would have fined someone else for owning, and jabbed her finger at me. "You asked for this!" She stormed off, shouting into her phone loud enough for half the county to hear. "Yes, 911? I have a trespasser. Yes, he's dangerous. He's refusing to leave my property." Her property. That was when I laughed. Maybe louder than I meant to, because if she had done even 30 seconds of actual research, she would have known the truth. Not only did I own the cabin, not only did I own the entire Lakeside, I owned the whole county, every acre, every road, every tree, every HOA building they thought was theirs. And she was about to learn that the hard way. Karen paced at the end of my gravel driveway like she was rehearsing for a courtroom. Drama. Phone clutched in her hand, hair frizzing with the intensity of her outrage. I leaned against my porch railing, sipping my coffee and watching her meltdown unfold like it was premium morning entertainment. The lake shimmered quietly behind me, the picture of calm, completely opposite of the chaos brewing in front of my cabin. Within minutes, I heard the familiar rumble of tires on dirt. A sheriff's SUV crested the hill and rolled toward us, sunlight glinting off the windshield. Karen jumped up and down as if she had summoned divine justice itself. "Officer!" "Over here!" she screeched, waving both arms like she was signaling a rescue helicopter. Sheriff Dalton stepped out, tall, steady, and wearing that same tired expression he always had when dealing with HOA nonsense. He took off his sunglasses, spotted me on the porch, and sighed. "Morning. Figured it'd be you." "Morning, Sheriff," I called back. Karen spun around in disbelief. "You know him? Great. Then you can arrest him faster." Dalton scratched his beard. "Arrest him? For what?" "Trespassing!" she shrilled. "He's illegally occupying HOA property." The sheriff glanced at me. I shrugged. "It's my cabin." "No," she barked. "Your ownership is irrelevant. The HOA expanded its authority last night. This land now falls under our jurisdiction. He must leave." Dalton tilted his head. "Ma'am, this cabin is an HOA property." "Yes, it is," she insisted. "Look at my paperwork." She thrust the clipboard at him. Dalton skimmed it, frowned, then closed it with a slow, almost sympathetic tap. "Ma'am, this paper isn't a legal deed. It's a meeting note, and it's not signed by the county." "It doesn't need county approval," Karen snapped. "The HOA has full authority here." Dalton exhaled the long, practiced exhale of a man who'd been dealing with her for far too many years. "The HOA doesn't outrank the county." She folded her arms. "Well then, who does?" Dalton pointed his thumb toward me. "Him." Karen blinked. "What do you mean, him?" I finally set my mug down. "Karen, I don't just own the cabin, or the lakefront, or the docks you keep trying to regulate." Dalton finished the sentence for me. "He owns the county, all of it. The land your HOA office sits on, he leases it to you." Karen's jaw dropped so dramatically I half expected it to hit the gravel. "No," she whispered. "That's impossible." But it wasn't, and she was only beginning to realize how far out of her depth she really was. Karen didn't speak for a full 10 seconds, an impressive record for someone who usually filled every available inch of silence with complaints, threats, and unsolicited HOA bylaws. She stared at me, then at Sheriff Dalton, then back at me again, like the world had suddenly tilted sideways and she was struggling to stay upright. Finally, she sputtered. That can't be true. No one owns an entire county." Dalton shrugged. "Well, he does. Survey records, historical deeds, and about 60 years of paperwork say so. Karen took a stumbling step backward, clutching her clipboard like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Her voice cracked. But we had plans. Ah, there it was, the truth lurking beneath her outrage. I crossed my arms. What plans exactly? She hesitated, her eyes shifting left and right as if the pine trees might overhear. It's none of your concern. Oh, I think it is, Dalton said. Especially if you've been trying to enforce authority outside your jurisdiction. Karen pressed her lips together, then exhaled hard, as if deciding we might as well know. Fine, she snapped. The HOA board has been working on a redevelopment proposal. We were going to transform the Lakeside area into a premier, HOA-controlled resort district. I blinked. A what? A resort district, she repeated proudly. Private beaches, exclusive clubhouses, luxury rental cabins, strict membership rules. Everything beautiful communities need. Dalton chuckled. Beautiful, huh? Sounds more like the world's most expensive prison. Karen ignored him. We were set to present the idea to investors next month. But for it to pass, we needed control of the Lakeside. All of it, including... She jabbed the clipboard toward me. Your cabin. Understanding dawned. So you tried to expand your authority without approval. She lifted her chin. The board agreed unanimously. Dalton whistled. Well, that explains all the noise lately. People were saying the HOA was getting more aggressive. Karen nodded with a strange mix of pride and desperation. We were making progress. We drafted new regulations, increased fines, even planned to raise dues. I raised an eyebrow. Without the actual residents voting on any of it? She waved that off. Residents don't understand what we're building, but once the resort was in place, they'd thank us. I let out a slow, deliberate sigh. Karen, even if your plan made sense, you can't redevelop land you don't own. You'd need county approval, permits, environmental surveys, and about 6 years of legal paperwork, and the county owner's signature, Dalton added, nodding toward me. Karen's face fell. Her entire plan, months of scheming, sneaking, and clipboard-waving domination had just evaporated. But the situation was about to get far worse for her. She just didn't know it yet. Karen looked like a glitching robot, jaw twitching, eyes blinking too fast, brain desperately trying to reboot itself. But before she could gather enough oxygen to launch into another tirade, the crunch of multiple sets of tires came rolling down the gravel path. 3 SUVs, matching, polished, and absolutely overcompensating. Sheriff Dalton muttered, "Oh great, reinforcements." The HOA board emerged like a squad of suburban Avengers. Clipboards, polo shirts, and expressions so serious, you'd think they were negotiating an international treaty instead of micromanaging a lakeside community. Leading them was Harold, the HOA president, a man whose personality could best be described as beige with delusions of grandeur. He marched forward, chest puffed. Karen, we came as soon as we heard the situation. Is this the trespasser? Karen pointed at me with triumphant relief, as if backup had arrived. Yes! And the sheriff is refusing to remove him. Dalton raised a hand. That's because he owns the cabin. Harold didn't flinch. The HOA voted last night to annex the lakeside properties. Our jurisdiction supersedes any private agreements. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Annex? This isn't a medieval kingdom. Harold ignored me and snapped his fingers. One board member stepped forward and opened a binder thick enough to be used as a doorstop. According to Section 14B of the Revised Expansion Initiative, the HOA reserves the right to extend its authority to adjacent territories deemed necessary for community improvement. Dalton frowned. That's not a law. That's something you typed in a document. It's binding, Harold insisted. Not without county recognition, Dalton replied. All eyes turned toward me. Harold cleared his throat. Sir, we understand you're emotionally attached to this cabin, but progress is coming. We have investors ready to make offers. If you cooperate now, we're prepared to compensate you fairly. Karen stepped forward. Very fairly. I folded my arms. How fairly? Harold exchanged a proud glance with the board. We're authorized to offer $1,000. Dalton coughed so hard he nearly choked. 1,000? Harold nodded. It's generous for a structure this old. I stared at them in disbelief. You want to buy my cabin? On my lake? On my land? Inside my county? For $1,000? It's our final offer, Karen added smugly. I took a slow step forward. Let me make something clear. The land you're standing on, the road you drove in on, even the HOA building you hold your little meetings in, all of it belongs to me. You don't get to annex anything. Harold's confidence flickered. But what came next would wipe it out entirely. Harold opened his mouth, clearly ready to argue, but the sound of another engine cut him off. This one was deeper, heavier, and far more official. Everyone turned as a black county truck rolled up the path and stopped beside the sheriff's SUV. The county seal gleamed. Across the door, Sheriff Dalton smirked. Well, looks like the county administrator got my message. The door opened, and out stepped Administrator Lewis, a calm, no-nonsense woman with decades of experience dealing with bureaucratic chaos. She approached with a professionalism that instantly drained the cockiness from the HOA board. Morning, she said. I hear we have a jurisdiction dispute. Karen practically sprinted toward her. Yes, thank you for coming. We need you to confirm that our expansion initiative is valid. This man is trespassing on HOA property and refusing to vacate. Lewis lifted an eyebrow. HOA property? Since when does the HOA own county land? Harold proudly stepped forward with his binder, opening it like he was presenting sacred scripture. Our board voted unanimously to annex the Lakeside. The residents will thank us once the resort district is complete. Lewis took the binder, skimmed the first page, then closed it with a snap. This isn't an annexation. This is a wish list. Harold sputtered. But, and even if it were, she continued, you would still need county approval, state filings, and the landowner's signed consent. Karen crossed her arms. We don't need his consent. Lewis turned to her slowly. Yes, you do. Especially when the landowner is, she motioned toward me, your county's sole private proprietor. Karen blinked, confused. You mean, that was real? It's been real for 60 years, Lewis answered. Harold looked like his entire personality had been unplugged. So, everything we planned, all our initiatives, all our expansion documents, invalid, Lewis said flatly. Every single one. Karen's face went pale. But we spent months preparing the resort proposal. We already told the investors! Lewis folded her hands. Then you'll need to untell them, immediately, because the HOA has zero authority to develop, seize, regulate, or repurpose land you do not own. Dalton leaned toward me and muttered, I love my job today. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Karen looked like she was genuinely reconsidering her entire life path. Harold attempted one last gasp at dignity. So, what now? I stepped forward. Now? You leave my property. You stop harassing residents. You roll back every illegal regulation you tried to pass. And you schedule a proper audit? Because the county will be reviewing every questionable action you've taken this year. Lewis nodded. Effective immediately. Karen's clipboard slipped from her fingers and hit the gravel. That was the moment the HOA's power collapsed. Not with a bang, but with the quiet, unmistakable sound of reality finally catching up to them.